Welcome to Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession. I'm Will Hubner here with Mark Mashashik. We are two doctors of physical therapy, and we are here to answer your PT questions as well as give our take on current sporting events from a health perspective. As always, send your questions to willandmarkshso@gmail.com, and we will answer them on the show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession. It's been a couple weeks since we've been on.
We're back. We're excited. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of holiday stuff, so we're going to get caught right back up on it.
Have a lot of turkey. Good Thanksgiving.
Oh, too much turkey.
That's the same with me. Still sleepy. But fantasy football playoffs are here. That's huge news.
Exactly. So we got today's show. We're going to have fantasy playoff updates, especially from our league and the other leagues we're in. I'm going to talk about college football playoff schedule. How it would be different if we had 8 teams versus 4. Who do we have in?
I mean, that suits everybody. Why don't we have that? And we're going to talk about how it would change it and make it more or less fair.
We'll talk about kind of an NFL playoff considerations. Who are contenders versus pretenders for the Super Bowl? And then we have a special guest today. We got Jeff Coulter coming from Exos. He's a personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach. He's worked with anywhere from NFL, NHL, MLB, you name it, Olympic athletes. So he's going to be a fun one to get on, and we'll.
His model sort of seems like it's professional athletes and your average guy suit your needs for personal training.
All right, so let's go fantasy playoff update. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but the number 1 seed who had a bye this week happens to be.
Dude, where's Lamar?
Who's me?
That's Will's team. Yeah, you got the bye.
12-1, lost first game, won 12 in a row.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. Will be playing the winner of Mark. I'm gonna Montez Sweat.
Yep, that's us.
Versus Anthony, who we've had on here.
Anthony is the stats guy. Me and him had a vicious matchup this week.
Heroes of Eternity. Mark won the matchup.
Yeah.
Monster game by A.J. Brown.
It wasn't looking good for me, actually. And, A.J. Brown's looking like he's got rapport. Ryan Tannehill. I've always thought Mariota was awful. He was, I think, the problem for Brown. So Brown's a good player. Got me 27 points and kind of knocked Anthony out here. It's going to be me next week against you. Right? I don't think Anthony's got anybody to catch me.
Nope.
It's going to be
a good game from Kirk.
So we've got a true. It's a Will and Mark HSO special. It's going to be a next week
to see who goes to the
playoff showdown to see who goes to the championship.
How are you feeling about your team? You lost Darius Geis.
Yeah, Geis is done.
A.J. Brown's a little bit banged up. At one point, he came back, yeah.
Odell has been awful all year. How many teams are going to semifinals right now who drafted Odell Beckham in the first round? How am I? Yeah, it's not my proudest team right now. But finding ways to win, getting little scraps like A.J. Brown to put in there and get me through lineups.
One of the stories of the week was Dirty Bird. Alex Cruz came in at 6-7, squeaked into the playoffs.
Last spot, just slid in there.
I don't think he realized he was in the playoffs. Terrible, because he had Derrick Henry on his bench, DK Metcalf on his bench, and Ravens D on his bench.
Yeah, but he put in Devontae Parker, so he had to know.
I mean, he's got Kenny Stills in there, Tariq Cohen. You're telling me you're going to play Tariq Cohen over Derrick Henry?
So he is playing our favorite orthotist, who's also been a podcast. He's been on the pod before, Shane.
Yep. So Shane.
Does Shane got him on lockdown yet? It's 95-83.
Shane already beat him. Shane's got Saquon going still, and he's already up 12 points.
Gotcha. So Shane's going to go on to play who?
Spencer Kalman. Team Kalman.
Oh, we got to have Spencer. So maybe we should have Spencer on in the upcoming weeks if he's.
And Spencer got a bye with a 9-4 record.
Great.
And he had actually, if he would have played this week, he had a pretty big 129 points.
Okay.
And this is a non-PPR.
We'll fill you in. Drama to ensue. Stay tuned. How'd your fantasy week go in general? Other playoffs do well?
Yeah, I squeaked into my other league, who I think is better than this team. I got a team that's 12-1. I don't feel confident about that team. I got a team that's, I think, 6-7. We snuck in, and I took down one of the powerhouses. Actually, I was the 7 seed. I took down the 2 seed. 5, 6, 7, 8, all won in that league.
I killed it in fantasy this year. Got a lot of buys, but had a couple big matchups this week. I need Shepard and Alshon to go off tonight, as well as Ertz for different combinations of winning. The biggest story of the fantasy weekend, though, and this really hurt a lot of my great teams who had buys, is the unbelievable amount of devastating injuries at the wrong time in the fantasy playoffs. Mike Evans caught a beautiful touchdown. It looked like his hamstring must have exploded as he ran into the end zone. I would assume you can't play him. So even if he's good to go next week,
Who?
Mike Evans, star receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep. One of their stars. Chris Godwin's pretty good too.
Sure, yeah, they're very good high flying passing attack. But you can't play. So this is my fantasy advice of the week. You can't play guys with hamstring injuries in important games coming off them, because even if he plays, the chances that he goes out again, I would say out of any injury that we see, hamstring is the most reoccurred soon after if you come back too soon. So I think Mike Evans is off your fantasy roster almost right now. That's big. Calvin Ridley, huge player for me this year. Announced today, I didn't even see the injury during the game, abdominal injury, out for the rest of the year. That's going to be burning some people. Geis went out with a knee injury. Rashad Penny, we don't know if it's an ACL. They're calling it an ACL sprain, but they're saying he's done for the year. Could be a surgical situation. Penny is helping out a lot of situations where they had the running back split. A lot of Carson owners seeing the split. He might bias some teams towards getting some wins.
So going into our matchup next week in our league, I am benefiting from this. I got Chris Godwin and Chris Carson, who both should see increased targets and increased.
Didn't even know
carries.
that. That was a segue into how good you're going to do next week with me mentioning that there. Ouch.
And good old Lamar's been carrying it.
I think Lamar was the number one. It was either Lamar or McCaffrey, number one on most playoff teams.
Yeah. So it'll be good. We'll keep you updated.
Over 50% of the teams that owned either Lamar or Christian made the playoffs, if you had one or the other.
Yeah.
CMC and Lamar, fantasy players of the year.
Dud might be Saquon. Hasn't really been living up to, got hurt, and then hasn't really lived up to his expectations.
There's always plenty of duds every year.
Yeah.
I'd say Saquon's better than drafting Saquon first overall is better than drafting Odell 8th overall.
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody hurt than someone playing and just not producing.
Yeah.
And Odell's another injury. He said he's got a core injury as well that he's playing through. So maybe that's affecting him.
I was reading just a headline that said sounds like the Browns are still going to play him.
Odell, yeah. Peterson a few years back, I think in his 2,000-yard rushing year, it came out that he was playing with a sports hernia. I've never had a sports hernia, so I don't know what it's like to go through, but it seems to be an injury that is a pain tolerance. I'm sure you must lose some abdominal stability from it, but it's something we've seen guys perform on before. So,
so let's talk. So the official college football playoff bracket is out. We got LSU 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, and Oklahoma sneaks in with the 4th spot. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that? You like those 4?
Yeah, I think so. The big argument that we've had on the pod before is it should be an 18 playoff. It's not fair. Most years, I would say. I would say this year it actually shook out in a way, just the way the championship games went. I think this is fair. I think this is what it should be. I like it. Most years I'm pretty frustrated that one team didn't get in. I would say I think these 4 have a pretty even cut above the next couple ones where I think it's a fair matchup. But I would still I still think our 18 playoff idea is everybody would benefit from it. It'd be exciting to see. But as I went through and did my 8, I would say this year compared to others, it shakes out where I think the top 4, they did get it right. How do you feel?
Yeah, I like the top 4. I think Oklahoma is clearly the one that's probably the worst of the 4 of them, but they deserve to get in.
If you win a major conference and you're ranked high and you've got less losses than all the other teams, you should be in. Can you even make an argument for another team? I think the committee was saying that they actually considered putting in Georgia over Oklahoma. But that's ridiculous to me because they've lost to one of the teams that's already in there. Not once, but twice,
Well, so let's go through. So we ranked, if we had eight teams.
How we would do our 18 play, like what we would individually. How would you do yours and how I would do mine?
Right. And we haven't talked to each other about this yet because we want it to be candid for the pod.
Agreed. So break it down. What were some of the things that you thought that went into your thought process for this? Well,
sure. Biggest thing for me was the amount of ranked wins you had on the season.
Okay.
Obviously the amount of losses that you had. But for me, it was more who have you beat.
Do you know offhand who did Oklahoma beat?
Oklahoma had 4 ranked teams that they beat.
I meant to say, who did they lose to?
Oklahoma State. Bad loss.
Kansas State, actually. It was Kansas State. Bad loss, yes. Okay. But a similar loss, yeah.
But they deserve to get in. They beat 4 ranked teams to get there. So I went number 5. So I still went LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma. I had Oregon at 6. Oregon has 2 top 25 wins. Their only losses are against Auburn, who's a stud of a team. And
Well, you've got Oregon at 5. I'm reading it right there.
yeah, Oregon at 5.
Yep, Oregon at 5. Got it.
And then they also lost to Arizona State, another ranked team. So they lost to 2 good teams, and they beat 2 good teams. So I have Oregon at 5. I think they're deserving. I actually have Memphis at 6. Memphis has 3 ranked wins. Granted, their best win was a top 15 team. They beat Cincinnati twice. I forget what the other one is. They lost to Temple. Bad loss. Temple's not a terrible team. But I think Memphis gets in. I mean, Clemson got in with 2 ranked wins, one of them being Texas A&M, ranked at the time, ended up being a terrible team.
Yeah.
So they really only beat one team, and that was Virginia. Granted, they crushed them in the championship game, which I think that looked really good for them. I have Georgia at 7. Georgia has 2 ranked wins. They lost to South Carolina and they lost to LSU. LSU's the best team, so I kind of take that with a grain of salt. And then I think the surprising one I have is I have Auburn, a 3-loss team, is going to take the 8th spot for me.
Okay.
Auburn
What's your rationale for putting a 3-loss team in there?
Because Auburn, you're rewarding the schedule. Auburn beat Florida, they have 3 ranked wins. They lost to Florida, LSU, and Georgia. So I don't fault them because they're playing, that's 3 top 10 teams that they lost to.
I'm going to change yours right here.
Mark, they played 6 ranked teams. 12 games, they played 6 ranked games. You can't fault them for losing 3 of those.
Your error here is that Florida beat Auburn, and their only 2 losses were to the other 2 teams that
Yeah, but Florida only has 1 ranked win, and that happens to be Auburn. Auburn just beat Alabama.
But Florida only has 2 losses, and they're to the same 2 teams that Auburn lost to.
But Florida only has 1 win.
Okay, so what I'm getting from your ranking here is it's very, very schedule based. So 1 to 8, you're just basing it off strength of schedule. Teams who beat the best other teams. That's how you do that's how you think you should be pounded out for.
Well, I feel like you get rewarded for teams that you beat, not teams that you lose to.
I think it's got to go both ways. You shouldn't be losing to bad teams.
They're not losing. They don't have any bad losses. Florida top 10 team, LSU number 1 team, Georgia top 10 team,
Okay.
and they've got big wins. They've beaten Alabama.
But you got them behind Memphis, who has a bad loss on their record.
Yeah, but Memphis has 3 ranked wins as well. They both have 3 ranked wins.
Okay.
Memphis only 1 loss. Granted, it was to Temple.
Okay, I see it. So my rankings, I go more systematic. My complaint on yours is a strong subjectivity on what people consider strength of schedule. We could go back and forth and argue. Mine is a little simpler. It's just the top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 major conference champions. Whatever the top 25 ranking has for those 5, that's the order they go in. So that breaks down to LSU at 1, Ohio State at 2, Clemson at 3, Oklahoma at 4, Oregon at 5. And we both agree on that. So that works for both of our systems. Sure. The next, I go 2 at-larges to just the 2 highest ranked teams at this point, and that would be Georgia and Baylor. I don't like putting Baylor in for your reasons.
Why does Baylor get in? They 0 ranked wins.
I know. I agree.
They've got 2 losses, no ranked wins.
I'm making mine less subjective. Mine's based off the poll. I think Florida should be ranked in over Baylor. I'd rather put Florida in. So
You got Baylor in. You want to put Florida in, put Florida in.
I'm telling you, I'm building a system here. It's got to go off the system. I'm not going to change it willy-nilly because I feel different about something. It's a system. Baylor is the highest ranked.
It's clearly a flawed system. This is the first year you're doing the system, and you got a team that hasn't beat any ranked teams.
Who would they beat?
They have 0 ranked wins, Mark.
Then why did the poll put them in so? Why are they ranked 7th then? They've only have 2 losses. They're both to a team that's ahead of them,
and they're not a single ranked win.
Yeah, I mean Texas is a good team. Oklahoma State, yeah, they didn't beat them when they were ranked, but you're also flawed on this. You're giving Auburn credit for beating Oklahoma State when they were ranked.
That's what you do. That's how you do it. How are you playing at the end of the year?
Baylor also beat Oklahoma State. They should still get credit for that.
Yeah, but it's when they're ranked. How well are they playing?
I like the fact that my system is more, you follow the rules of the system. It's not willy-nilly. You're going to get people fighting all day. We're already fighting about yours.
But the whole committee itself is subjective.
Yeah, that's fair.
If we want to make it objective, sure, we can do this. I'm not against it.
It's easy to say, let's just keep any team that lost 3 games out, though.
I mean, based on your rationale, Utah should get in, right?
Why? Utah has a very low ranking.
What are they?
Utah is ranked.
They got crushed in their championship.
They're
game,
11th.
right?
Yeah, they're not even close.
Okay.
I put in. I think it's fair that we get all the top teams in, and then I just base it off.
It's just tough when you say, okay, we're going to go basically all ranked teams, and then instead of putting the 8th best team in, we're going to put in Memphis, who's the 17th best team, because they're a mid-major.
Well, that's what we discussed this. This is a year where the top mid-major team does have a loss. But the reason that this is a strong argument is your UCF argument, which you never shut up about. But they should be in. They should have an opportunity to win the playoffs. And I think we give the mid-majors an opportunity to take the 8 seed, the last seed. It's not like we're doing them any favors. They got to finish their season playing LSU.
You do credit where it's due. I don't think Memphis is as deserving as UCF was.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm saying I'm putting in a rule effect to make sure that these teams who can't control their schedules and can't schedule an SEC schedule, that they have an opportunity to get in. You put Memphis in too.
Yeah, no, I like Memphis in because they have 3 ranked wins. I just think there's always going to be a little bit of subjectivity to it. And then the teams like Clemson, for example, if we're going subjectivity to it, Clemson, I honestly think is one of the top 4 teams in the nation, regardless, even if they had a loss, right? They're talent-wise, they're a top team. They could win it all very easily. If they lost one game, I would not have them likely in the top 4. No way, because they only have 2 ranked wins. One of them shouldn't be ranked.
Yeah, that's not their fault. They're playing the ACC that has less ranked teams. So we can't
reward. You reward for wins as opposed to who you're playing. I think the schedule matters.
I think the 5 major conferences are all still the strongest. I think all 5. You should have a winner from all 5.
And that worked out perfectly. I like that.
I'll tell you this about Clemson though. They haven't lost in 2 years. It's not just like this year they didn't play anybody good.
But I don't think that matters. That shouldn't matter. Each year is completely separate, in my opinion.
I think if you go undefeated. And if you told me that they even played worse cupcake teams, they go undefeated and they're the reigning champion, and you don't put them in the playoff, I think that's a travesty.
Wait, we got a patient comment here, or not a patient comment here. Brandon Bryant says, hands down, a true college playoff should represent the conference champions from each FBS conference. I think we all agree. Hash it out on the field and best team prevails. Until that happens, debate continues. My question for Brandon is, should Memphis be in?
Well, not in a 4 team, obviously.
Right, but in an 8 team.
Yeah, I like to. Let's put that to a poll. Should we have if there is an 8 team system, should we have a mid-major category? I think it just makes it more fun. That gives it a little bit of a Sweet 16 feel from that. How much excitement is there around the college tournament? I know the football playoffs are fun, but come on, that doesn't hold a candle to the. Would you agree with that? The NCAA basketball tournament's much more fun.
Oh, yeah.
We get all these Cinderella options.
Right,
Memphis gets a chance to be a Cinderella. I think it just makes it more fun for everybody.
Well, how do you change the scheduling? How can we make it so that there's fair scheduling? All these teams say, oh, nobody wants to play me. Appalachian State, nobody wants to play me. Boise State, nobody wants to play me. Can't fault me.
Well,
you got to come up with some way to...
I don't know if you have to change the scheduling. What you do is you just say, if you want to play for a national championship, regardless if nobody wants to play you, you go undefeated and you're the best mid-major team. You're going to give you an opportunity.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get Alabama to play the top mid-major because there's no opportunity to look good. You can only look bad. They pay the major teams pay the lower ranked teams to play them in that game. They make a lot of money off those games. But we could add an extra game. You complaining about Alabama playing Western Carolina at the last game of the year? If we're worried about them playing too much, just cut that game out and you put in the extra playoff game. It's a great idea.
I agree. If we're all going to be, you don't need basically 4 games against extremely weak opponents just to get your record up to 4 extra wins.
The problem that is those lower programs are making a lot of money off those games, so they want them. And I guess, I don't know.
Here's my argument for you. So if you have a team like Clemson that is scheduling weaker opponents, regardless of why they're doing it, right? And then instead of those weaker opponents, you got Auburn, who's scheduling Florida, Georgia, LSU.
Yeah, you also got to realize they don't make this schedule like 6 months before the games happen. They're made years ahead of time.
I'm just saying you're faulting a team for scheduling a harder opponent. That's the games I want to see. I want to watch Auburn play Florida. But you don't. So I want to watch Auburn play.
I don't
LSU.
understand. You don't want to see Clemson in then? I don't understand what you're saying about Clemson.
I'm just saying Auburn, in my opinion, should get in. They have 3 losses. Give them that. But 6 of their games this year has been against ranked opponents.
Auburn lost to Georgia,
Florida, LSU, and Georgia.
Okay.
All top 10 teams. And you're faulting them because they have 3 losses, whereas a team with,
but
Georgia, you've got 2 losses.
You've got 3 teams in there already. who all beat them, though, is what I'm saying. It's just, particularly if someone's lost to someone twice.
Auburn beat Georgia, or beat Oregon, who's in there. First game of the year.
Like I said, I think you have to pay tribute to the major 5 conferences. I don't think Oregon's that strong. I think it's definitely the weakest conference winner.
All right.
And that's why they didn't get into the top 4. No, now I need to know if it was an 18 playoff, who do you got as a winner? If it's a 14 playoff, who do you have as a winner? And is the answer the same? Who do you got? And maybe we're gonna let something ride on this if we're different.
I think there's 3 teams that have a chance to win it.
Who are they?
LSU, Ohio State, Clemson.
Duh, you're killing me. You don't want Clemson to get in? You think you're going to change?
No, I think they're a great team. I just don't think their resume is backed up where they're at. They've one ranked team. They've beaten one ranked team.
And they beat them by 50 points, and they had their backups in the third quarter of a conference championship game. They're that much better.
Virginia's ranked like 23rd.
Who do you got? Who do you got for your winner?
I think Ohio State's the best team in this.
I think Clemson's the best team in the nation. No. I think they're going to win.
I think the debate's between Ohio State and LSU. I don't know. We just haven't seen it from Clemson. I think Lawrence is the great quarterback. I think Josh Fields might be the best quarterback.
I think Josh Fields looks a little banged up right now. I don't think that's.
He's got that, but it's opposite hand. But he's having some fumbling issues.
I don't see the toughness. I like Josh Fields.
Who's the toughness of Josh Fields?
It's Justin Fields.
Justin Fields.
I don't know if he's as tough as. It's going to be a fun playoff, and I really think it's a year. I feel like every year I'm complaining that this one team deserved to be in and didn't get in, and that's why we pushed the 18 playoffs. I think this year it worked out perfectly. I think there's a big drop off from deserved being from Oklahoma to Oregon.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So side bet, I got Clemson. You got Ohio State. Even right now.
Go through it. We'll take a couple of them. I'll take Ohio State.
Oh, but then the next one is LSU, obviously.
All right.
You give me. I get Clemson, LSU.
I'll give you first pick. You want Clemson as your first pick?
I want Clemson, LSU. You can have whoever else you want. No, we'll just do Clemson, Ohio State.
Yeah,
all right. I got Clemson. You got Ohio State. Shout out to Fred Gilbert. We'll try to have him on. Big Clemson fan.
Clemson guy, yeah.
We'll try to have him on if they're in.
Let's go through NFL. We're going to go over kind of teams where they're at now, which teams would be in, who's still kind of on the hunt. And we're going Super Bowl. So who's really, truly a contender that has a chance to win the Super Bowl?
Right.
Who is a pretender?
So on our comments here, we're not saying who's a contender for the playoffs. We're saying who actually do we believe has a chance to make it and win the Super Bowl?
Correct.
Okay.
So want to go through NFC?
Yes.
Start with NFC. So here, I'll do NFC for you. You do AFC for me, okay?
Okay. Let's break
49ers, 11-2.
100% contender. Did you see him play this weekend?
Great game against the Saints.
Oh, my God. And that I think that right there is an easy championship preview game, and I think everybody's going to want to see that. I mean, that there's been some really good games this year, and I forget which one was the last great one we watched.
It was the Chiefs versus the Rams, I think, last year, which was incredible.
Even 2 weeks ago, there was a game that was just unbelievable. It was one of the Lamar games, I think. I think this game, it knocked all the memories of other great games out of my head. It was so fun to watch.
I was surprised at the 49ers offense in that game because they were able to keep up. I thought their defense would be able to not hold Breeze in check, but not give up 40-some points.
You got Emmanuel Sanders out there throwing dimes, looking like Jimmy Garoppolo. It's easy to be good.
Achilles tear seems to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that one before. It is interesting. I'm bummed out that the 49ers gave up their pick to get Emmanuel Sanders, and he looks so good. Pats gave up their second-round pick to get Sanu. Ugh, we're not getting the same return on that.
Yeah. All right, Packers 10-3.
Obviously, if they're a bye team, they have to be in consideration. But for the sake of parity here, I'm going to say pretender.
Okay.
I don't think they've got a lot of firepower around Aaron Rodgers. Who's he throwing to? He's throwing passes to
Lazard. Devontae Adams is back, but he's got the turf toe injury. It's kind of.
Who'd you say?
Lazard.
Oh, Lazard.
Is that his name?
Yeah, he's a rookie 7th-round pick at Iowa State.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's not good.
He's not fast.
Devontae Adams, their guy, for sure.
You double Devontae, and what else are you looking at? 60-year-old Jimmy Graham, Valdez-Scantling can seem to only run in one line. Allison's getting up there. Yeah, the defense has been a little bit of a good expectation. But, yeah, I'm going to say the Saints are definitely the more strong team there. And I think
the Saints were going contender there.
Contender.
Okay. Cowboys then would get in right now at 6-7 just because they won their division. Eagles are 5-7. So why don't you do Cowboys and Eagles? I'm assuming I know your answer for these.
Yeah, pretenders.
Okay.
These aren't. There's fun watches to see who gets in the playoffs, but I don't think they can hold up, particularly on the road playing any of these teams.
Pretty strong wild cards here right now. Seahawks at 10-3, and Vikings at 9-4.
Yep.
What do you think?
I go. Seahawks really disappointed me this weekend. It just didn't look like they. It didn't look like they were fighting to keep their bye, and it didn't look like they were fighting hard for it. It looked like they could take a game off. Big injury with Rashad Penny that really affects them. We'll see if they got CG Pro will come in and play. I'm still going to give the Seahawks a contender, but I got the 49ers and Saints on the big weekend for them, a step ahead of them. So I'll give them a contender.
Actually, I think Seahawks are a pretender only because they're getting a wild card. If they have home field advantage or have some home games, I can see them winning. There's no way they're winning on the road, in my opinion. I don't think they got it in them.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't, but that's not the reason I say that's not set in stone yet. They still could, if something happens to the Packers and Saints, move up, get a bye. It's possible.
What did you say about Vikings?
I'm gonna go pretender.
Kirk Cousins.
That's
Curse
why.
of the Kirk.
Curse of the Kirk. Sorry, guys. They're playing good D. They want to run the rock. That's what they do. Very exciting year for the Vikings. They've really turned the step, but I think they're a playoff contender for sure. Very, very good playoff team, but I don't think they're going to beat those other three.
Not a good time for Dalvin Cook to come down with a little bit of a shoulder injury.
It was 2 weeks ago. It looked bad. This week he played well with it. They gave him a little bit of reprieve
They're
too.
going in the wrong direction. Adam Thielen is a questionable, doubtful out for like the last 6 weeks.
The momentum doesn't feel good.
No. Rams 8-5 are kind of on the outside looking in.
But momentum's turning.
They look good last night.
I'll still go pretender for Super Bowl, but I actually, as a team that's not in, I think they're going to get in.
Yeah, I think they have a chance.
I think they're going to be a playoff team.
I think they got the talent.
I think they've really had this plan to just like take Gurley all year and just be like, how can we go 8-5 and not use him at all? Which is what they've done. He's getting 12 to 14 carries a game.
They also saved all of Goff's passing yards.
The offensive line has been terrible. That's been the problem. I don't know what they did yesterday to fix the offensive line. Robert Woods had his first touchdown catch of the season. He's coming alive. I think this is a playoff team. Let's see. We can readdress in a couple weeks. I think the Rams are going to hit the playoffs here.
And then the other one's Bears 7-6. Mitch Trubisky, I know you're a big fan.
He still stinks to me. I'm sorry.
Pretenders?
Yeah.
That defense, very disappointing. All right. AFC?
I'll flip it around on you.
Okay.
Ravens, 11-2.
Contender. Can we give them the rings now? Do we even need to have the playoffs?
Okay.
Contenders.
You're that cocky, though.
Contenders.
Give me... Okay.
I don't see a scenario unless a major injury to Lamar or Jimmy Smith or one of their big defensive guys.
You got them a lock for the Super Bowl or just a contender right now? We can bump it up a step. We can make someone a lock if you feel that confident. Contender, pretender, lock. What do you got?
I will say, barring a major injury to Lamar Jackson, a lock.
Put it down. Put it in the L. Lock it in. Okay. How about my floundering New England Patriots?
I'm on the fence with them. I want to say pretenders, but you can't count out
So
Brady and Belichick.
You're going to give them what I gave the Seahawks? You're going to give them the CP? They're right on the fence?
Yeah, you just can't go against them. They're not looking good. They're still 10-3 though. We were just talking about that.
It doesn't seem like they should be, right? Because
they
they stunk 2 weeks in a row. That's why.
They have another game with the Bills though, right? Coming up.
I want to say yes.
You guys beat them, I think, by 7. It's a 1-score game. But anyways, that could be the deciding game and who wins that conference.
It could be, yeah.
Who's next? We got
computer dying here.
So I'll give contenders for Pats, contenders for Ravens.
Okay.
Who's next on here?
Let's go to the Chiefs. Chiefs looking like they took it to the Patriots this weekend in New England. They went into New England.
Yep. Gonna go off the cuff and say pretenders.
Why?
I don't think they're that good anymore. Mahomes hasn't looked the same as he was last year. He's having a little bit of a, I don't know, not a slump, but he just doesn't seem as good. The Chiefs' defense played very well. I still think that's partly bad offense by this.
It's interesting that the Chiefs,
Patriots.
the Chiefs' defense for a couple weeks has looked better. Mahomes looks like he's played about 60 games for some reason. I mean, he was shaking his hand a lot. They were saying, like, I think Romo was saying during the game, like, it looks like he hurt his hand. He took a hit to the ribs. He's holding his ribs. He's had the ankle all year. He's got the dislocated kneecap. I think he looks a little banged up. They can't get the running game going at all, and that's a staple of Andy Reid's offense. So I agree with you. I think, well, you going into New England to one. I'll put them on the fence. I got a pretender for them, too.
They beat the Ravens early on. Ravens had back-to-back losses to the Chiefs and the Browns. They get a revenge game against the Browns coming up. I wouldn't mind seeing them in the playoffs.
Okay, Texans next.
Texans pretenders for sure. They got spanked.
Because they look. We're giving them just the one night window here of
Drew Lock and Noah Fant. Granted, Noah Fant, they have a good connection. Noah Fant looked great.
Dude, I don't know. Billy O'Brien just poops his pants sometimes. I can't explain it. They look amazing and then they fall apart.
Yeah, not good.
I go pretender there too. Buffalo Bills.
I'm gonna say contender. They haven't. See, it goes back to like the whole playoff thing. They haven't beaten anybody good. They have one game against the Titans. That's the only team they've beaten. That's
Very,
above
very
500.
early, easy on schedule, and losing some games here late when the schedule's getting tougher.
Tough.
That's the exact word I'd use to describe them to. Tough team to an experience. Pretender for me. Pittsburgh Steelers. Everything. Ben Roethlisberger's arm falls off. Antonio Brown leaves. Le'Veon Bell leaves. Mike Tomlin, coach of the year, holding it together. What do you think?
Pretender.
Agreed.
For sure. But incredible story.
Give it
Coach
to
of the year for Tomlin.
For sure. And just the fact to rally behind Duck. You know how Duck got his nickname? He likes duck calls in the locker room. He did a bunch of duck calls.
This is Hodges?
Yeah, Hodges. Duck Hodges.
Looks better than Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph just doesn't have the head for it. Duck seems very physically limited as a quarterback, but it's interesting.
But I mean, think about it. No Big Ben. You lose Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. You lose Juju's out. Connor's been out. You got nothing. You're working with third-string quarterback.
No, it's just I think they should be excited to make the playoffs. Titans. They're looking out looking in. They got the sad puppy dog eyes in the window right now. They want it.
Yeah. I think they have a chance to win a game in the playoffs. I think they can sneak in. I think they can win a game. I don't see them as contenders.
I'm going to flip this one on you, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a curveball here. They're my dark horse contenders. They're not in the playoff picture right now. They look vicious. Ryan Tannehill is a much better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. We're seeing that.
They're tied with the Texans right now.
Derrick Henry has. I think they don't have the tiebreaker.
But if you're looking at momentum, Titans are going to.
Oh, the momentum. Derrick Henry looks like, from a physicality standpoint of how he's playing right now, he looks like LeBron James. He's just like on the field, like roaring like a lion.
Who would have thought if you just give him the ball over and over and over again, he's going to score. He's going to break one. He's going to.
Oh yeah.
Bash the,
well,
I feel like the offensive playbook for him in past years has not been great.
No, it was Matt LaFleur last year found out around week 11 that if he just gives him the ball every play, it works. He just wasn't doing it.
Wear down that defense.
He learned from it, and he's doing it with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Yeah, I really like them. I think they're a fun team to watch. Very physical. Coached by Mike Vrabel, grind your nose in the dirt type of team. A good one off the Patriots coaching tree.
Their defense is good too.
We got Browns, Raiders, and Colts. Can you sum that up with one? All pretenders, right? Yeah. Easy enough.
All right, so special guest
coming in. Comment back in how you feel about our contenders, pretenders too.
Yep. So let's go. I'll give Jeff an introduction, then I'll call him.
Again, this is Jeff Coulter. Is a personal trainer in the area that works with the Exos program.
All right, so credentials are certified athletic trainer, certified strength and conditioning specialist, several others, but these are the big ones. He has a master's in health and exercise science. His work history, he was a head football athletic trainer for 7 years, working with collegiate athletes from all sports, but focused mostly on football. He joined Exos in 2017, which is as a performance specialist, and has trained everything from NFL, MLB, NHL, and other professional and Olympic-level athletes to adults, tactical, and high school athletes. His specific background is in helping athletes get past major injuries and bridging that gap between physical therapy and return to sports. So this should be a great...
That's a great breakdown.
Oh, definitely.
We're excited to talk to Jeff about...
So let me call him up, and we'll talk to Jeff.
Good to get a different perspective on things. Bringing in Jeff, personal trainer. See if we can get Jeff on the line.
The number you have reached.
Oh, not good.
So,
I made a,
just a little digit error. No big deal. I'll work on Will's thumb motor control later after the show. Let's see if we can get Jeff on the line.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, it's Will here. I'm here with Mark. You're on the podcast live right now. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Glad to do it.
Great, Jeff. I'd like to just hear a little bit more about your background. And Mark here, by the way, just your background, how you got started, and your kind of sort of your career arc. Where college, what gave you your roots, and how that brought you where you are today?
So originally, I'm from Colorado. I'm from a suburb of Denver called Centennial, where I was, two-sport high school athlete. I played football and baseball, and I played, soccer and baseball and all sorts of different sports when I was growing up as a kid. And always knew that I wanted to work in sports in some way. I knew I wanted to play baseball in college. I knew, those were the kind of the career paths that I wanted to go down. So when I came to my college search, I ended up wanting to branch out from home, and I went and found a Division II school just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, called Wingate University.
Sure, Wingate.
And, it's a small D2 school that every once in a while I find somebody up here in the Northeast or everywhere around the country has some weird connection to Wingate. So I went there. I played baseball for 2 years. In between my freshman and sophomore year, I went home for the summer, like most athletes do, and was playing baseball over the summer and tore up my labrum in my throwing shoulder.
Ugh.
And like most stubborn athletes, I tried to play through it, and it didn't go very well. Obviously, there was like a knife being stabbed through my shoulder every time I threw. And that didn't go very well. So ultimately had surgery. I went back and I had not a great rehab experience. Whether it was because I had, young athletic trainers that were interns and were really well experienced, or just a comedy of errors, I just didn't have a great rehab experience. And it was frustrating because I was an athletic training student at the time. And so I was also, learning about this career that I wanted to go down this path. And so I worked hard through my rehab kind of more or less on my own, and came back out of it, got back into strength and conditioning, started lifting on my own, just not really following any like standard program or any protocol, but just kind of doing things on my own. After my sophomore year, I decided to stop playing baseball and focus on my education as an athletic trainer, to kind of work on what life would be like after graduation. From there, after I graduated from Wingate, I went to the Citadel, which is the Military College of South Carolina, located in Charleston, South Carolina, where I worked as a graduate assistant in their sports medicine department, working with the South Carolina Corps of Cadets and the football program. While there, I studied and got my master's in health, exercise, and sports science, which just kind of furthered my knowledge in how the body moves and energy pathways and all the kinetic linking that happens through basic biomechanical movements. After that, I graduated and I got a job at Newberry College, which is a Division II school, which ironically plays in the same conference as my alma mater, Wingate University, as a head football athletic trainer. And the first season that I was there, we had 22 surgeries with the football team alone. Now, in a lot of situations in collegiately, 22 surgeries would be a relatively high number for an athletic department. We had that on one team.
Yeah, they're keeping you in business. Wow, 22 surgeries in one season.
I was
busy year.
I was very, very busy, unfortunately, and it was my first year out of grad school, so I was struggling to keep my head above water.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just in your career arc, just you can keep going through the sort of the history here, get an idea of what brought you to Exos.
Yeah, so that's where I was headed there. So we had 22 surgeries that first year, and I was very lucky to work with a very, very talented physical therapist in the athletic training room every day. And he and I worked together to get these guys to a point where it's like, okay, just go home over the summer and follow a great strength and conditioning program, and you'll be good to go for August. And sure enough, these guys come back in August, and they're out of shape. They're slow. They have no power. They have no, good strength qualities. So I started to spend all my time working my continuing education towards, strength conditioning practices, whether that was getting my CSCS, through the NSCA, or I went through the National Academy of Sports Medicine and got my Performance Enhancement Specialist certification. I just kind of spent a lot of my time on post-surgical rehab and that reconditioning, that re-education. When I moved up to the northeast to the DC area, I continued that education through the next 2 years working with Catholic University, and an opportunity came up with Exos to do exactly what I do, which is bridging the gap between where physical therapy leaves off and where true return to sport happens. For a lot of athletes, say they tear their ACL, they tear up their shoulder, they have surgery, they go and they work with a PT, and for whatever reason, whether it's because the facility can't support it, whether insurance times them out, or they've just gotten to a point where the PTs can't help them anymore. Not to the lack of what a physical therapist is doing, but just for those things, insurance, facility, space. There's some things that people can't work around in order to finish their rehab off. And that's what I do with Exos. So I get athletes that come off of all sorts of surgeries. Obviously, my most common is ACL or MCL meniscus. It's a combination of the few. And they come to me after being in physical therapy. And generally, I like to see an athlete when they're 12 to 16 weeks out, basically when they get cleared to start running again. And we start reintroducing running patterns, change the direction patterns, and then start working on the basic strength needs that athlete will need.
And Jeff, just because me and Will PTs here in Northern Virginia are very familiar with Exos and some of your work, but could you just give us a little more background for our listeners who just aren't that familiar with the actual company, just how big it is and what, where you guys are location and specifically the populations that you work with?
Yeah, so Exos was founded in the late 90s as a refuge for the elite level athletes. Your NFL, your Major League Baseball, your hockey, your NHL, or your Olympic level athletes to come get their off-season strength and conditioning, where, Exos was founded on 4 pillars: mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery. And we integrate those pillars regardless of the level of the athlete for the betterment of that athlete. Now, we were seen as a great off-season resource. We've branched from there. We are the number 1 name in NFL Combine Prep. So with the NCAA football season winding to a close, these guys are getting ready to start preparing their bodies for the NFL Combine in 2020. We're roughly going to have 120 or 150 to 200 athletes nationwide coming to an Exos facility for that reason.
That's awesome.
The facility that I work at in Northern Virginia is what's known as a Powered By, in which Exos kind of partners with these major medical outfits to do exactly what I do, finish that continuum of care where athlete gets hurt, sees doc, has surgery, does physical therapy, and then comes to Exos to help finish off that therapy and that return to sport progression. So Exos is a worldwide company with different tactical outfits that we have all over the world, but it's also, local to the United States, where we're based in Phoenix, Arizona, but we have several facilities in Texas and Florida and California, and then smaller facilities like the one I'm at, located all over the country.
You guys have a big push for, the athlete in anybody, of the idea of just optimizing human potential in motion. It's you work with a lot of amateur athletes, but even Joe Schmo?
Yeah, absolutely. We one of the things that any strength and conditioning gym outside of your normal Gold's gym, like if you go to, whatever is outside of a CrossFit box or these different strength and conditioning outfits, the bulk of your clientele is going to be your adult population, regardless of who you really want to work with. I mean, our adults are a mainstay of our population, and they work out in 2 different groups, and I have everything from young 20 and 30 somethings that just want to be pushed really, really hard, all the way to people who are in their late 60s and 70s that just want to keep moving really, really well. The Exo system is really, really good at adapting for all those people, and it's challenging for me as the coach inside of a group to train one guy who's in his 30s and wants to bench press the house, training right next to a 75-year-old man who has a total knee replacement that doesn't have all of his range of motion, but still wants to be really, really active. Those guys will train right next to each other. And all of them are getting everything they can out of each training system.
That's awesome. Optimizing. I mean, that's the same thing that, me and Will and a lot of us look at our treatment approach the same way. It's just what do you need? What are your goals? And how can we help you get there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeff, so first off, thank you for what you do. We've sent plenty of patients kind of bridge that gap because you're right. It's really challenging. Space is limited. I mean, we're working with a lot of times TheraBands at our clinic. I mean, we got dumbbells up to 10 pounds. So when we're talking about heavy lifting and getting back to return to sports or whatever it is, we're very limited in what we can do. So we appreciate having you guys to kind of help bridge that gap and kind of get our patients back to whatever they want to get back to. But having said that, so what is so much different about Exos versus, if I just go get a trainer at Gold's Gym, what's going to be kind of the difference? What's the main things that people should go to Exos as opposed to just any other athletic trainer?
Well, the biggest thing that's going to stand out about an Exos performance specialist is our education and our background. We spend a lot of time making sure we know the ins and outs of not only anatomy, but functional anatomy, working on kinetic linking patterns. That way if you're a rotational sport athlete like a baseball player or a lacrosse player, generating force out of your hips, transferring that through your body, through your torso, and out into whatever implement, whether that's a stick or a ball. Those things take time to learn those pathways, and one thing that Exos does better than any other company that I've ever worked with is their education. So I carry a certification called the XPS, or the Exos Performance Specialist certification. It's a certification that every single performance specialist across the company carries, and it gives us the insight to the Exos system and how we combined, mindset, nutrition, movement, recovery all together for the betterment of the athlete, regardless of the sport or the work environment. We train, thousands of tactical athletes, and the tactical athlete's not what everybody thinks it is. A lot of people think a tactical athlete is, your Navy SEALs or your SWAT team members, your door kickers, stuff like that. And it very well could be your police and fire and EMS. Those are all tactical athletes that have to have, a certain level of physical fitness in order to do their job. And what Exos really, really does is the education that they give every single one of their members, of their, staff members, gives us the ability to branch out from Johnny High School, who's torn his ACL and he's coming back from a rehab stint, and then the next group that you're going to have is going to have 20 firefighters from the local volunteer firefighting office are going to come in, and they need just general strength and conditioning to keep their body physically fit to do their job.
Yeah, that's great. I like how you combine the whole, it's you're looking at the person as a whole. You're looking at nutrition, you're looking at habits, you're looking at mindset, all these different things. And I feel like that's lost in a lot of just training programs in general.
Yeah, it's the staple of the Exos training program is combining all four of those together, and there's a reason why they're listed in the order that they are. Mindset, the way you approach something is determines everything that you're going to do. If you go in with a bad attitude and I don't want to do this and I can't do this, you're going to have that negative outcome. But if you have different strategies of like, okay, 1 foot at a time, or I just need to focus on the next 30 seconds of sprinting as hard as I can, and then I can move forward with whatever's left, tackling it one thing at a time. That and the mindset strategies of recovery, which a lot of people overlook. I tell every single athlete that I work with, regardless of where they're coming from, is I tell them, you're not going to get stronger in here with me. I'm going to work on breaking you down. The way you sleep and what you eat are going to 100% determine your outcome. All right? So you've heard the saying, you can't out-train a bad diet. That's 100% certain. If you want to run like a Ferrari, but you put regular 87 octane in your tank, you're going to have a hard time getting up to the speeds that you want to, and your engine's going to start to fall apart eventually.
It's going to beat the crap out of your engine. I really like the way you look at that. And I think of a lot of people who fail in rehab and training programs and what they want to get to is just missing one of those parts of the approach. It's, we're made up of biomechanics and chemistry. You can't cheat science. You need all aspects of it. I really like that.
You do, and the art of it comes into not every training program works for every person. Not every diet works for every person. There's give and take on all sorts of fronts where, some people will respond really well to high volume training. Other people don't. Some people are going to respond better to a high carb diet and a low fat diet. Other people don't. It bounces back and forth, and that's the kind of the art of what we do, is being able to make sure everybody's getting what they need through the science that we know, whether it's movement science, nutrition science, mindset science. All of those patterns are being put into that athlete for their optimal performance. That way we can upgrade their life the best we can.
What do you see in general when you're working with some of the youth athletes? Maybe we're talking little league or high school or even college. What are some of the major areas of weakness or major areas that people kind of don't target as often as they maybe should, that they should be working on?
I would say, if I break it up into two categories, if I'd say movement skill, right? So that's accelerating, decelerating, changing direction. Basic patterning and slowing a pattern down to make that pattern perfect is the one mistake that a lot of things are made. Athletes will speed themselves up faster than what they're capable of. And a perfect example of that is like a agility speed ladder, whereas an athlete will run their feet at 1,000 miles per hour, but they're not built to go that fast. They start tripping over the ladder, tripping over their own feet, or they can't get the pattern right. So slowing it down, regressing the basic movement patterns and rehearsing those over and over again to groove those patterns as smooth as they can are a great way to overcome that. So you have to get out of the mindset of go as fast as you can and get more into, hey, groove this pattern, make sure it's smooth, and then we can add some power to it. I think from a strength go ahead.
I just like how that complements so much of what we do in a lot of the P&F work we do. And basic teaching principles is you've got to be able to do each individual aspect of emotion well and then put them together to make a whole. I like to tell patients slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Absolutely. I say smooth is quick, slow is smooth and smooth is quick.
No, very good.
But yeah, I use that all the time. I think the other thing that gets lost a lot, unfortunately, especially in our little league baseball players, is their core training is not that good. And it's an unfortunate thing because it is the most important thing that you need to set up from a foundational standpoint for success. Whether kids come in for a physical therapy evaluation or they come to me and they're saying, I've got elbow pain or I've got shoulder pain, you look at the way their arm moves and you're like, well, your arm's nice and strong. All those structures are strong, but then you ask them to do a push-up and they leave their hips on the floor far before far after their chest has left the floor. That's a midline stability issue, and that's why they're having pain. They're having breakdowns through the kinetic chain far before they even get to their shoulder or elbow, and that's where they're running into some pain. And the misconception is that the core produces force, and so people will do sit-ups and leg lifts till they're blue in the face and then still wonder why they go in for an evaluation and a doctor or a physical therapist or a strength coach will say, yeah, your core's weak, and they don't understand that, whereas the core is designed to either resist or transition force. And so that's the way we look at training the core.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I see a ton of Little League baseball players, and most of them can't even stand on one leg. So you're talking about, well, how are you going to, pitch a ball when you can't stand on one leg? It's so easy that we think about arm care and what do we do? And most kids that I see say, oh, yeah, I got a TheraBand, and, I go into internal rotation, external rotation, do a little bit of shoulder flexion, things like that. And I feel like most people are just missing the big picture, that things are breaking down well before the shoulder or elbow are taking any of the force.
Oh, 100%. And honestly, when I get an athlete that comes in because they're coming off of an ACL or something like that, one of the things that I will tell them when they ask about how many days a week they should train or how long they should train, I tell them I'm not going to train just that right knee. I'm going to train your right leg, your left leg, your core, your right arm, your left arm. I'm going to train your entire body because it's all working together for your athletic outcome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeff, if you could just tell us a little bit about kind of where you see maybe kind of the future. If you could give kind of a quick little synopsis of, with New Year's resolutions coming up and people looking for programs, if you just had a quick little kind of spiel for them as to why they should come to Exos or what they should be looking for in a trainer, what they should be looking for if they're trying to start a program.
If Exos isn't an option for them with New Year's resolutions coming around the corner, where do you tell people to turn if it can't be just in the hands of Jeff Coulter?
Yeah, if it can't just be in my hands, ultimately, finding a program that you're willing to stick to. If you go to, average Joe's gym and they say, hey, in order to have success in this program, you've got to be here 6 days a week for 2 hours every single day, and you've got, a wife and 2 kids and 3 dogs, and you can't commit to that, that's not going to be a program that's going to be successful for you. The same thing can also be said about the strength coach or the trainer that you're going to work with. You need to work with someone that is listening to your needs and is going to say, okay, they're not going to push me past something that I'm not capable of, but they're also going to get me out of my comfort zone and push me past what I'm used to. So there's that art, there's that balance of I need to work harder than I've been working in order to make a change, but I don't need to be pushing so hard that I'm throwing up every day that I'm working out. I'm getting the rest that I need. And ultimately, if you want to make a change in like a new year, new you, getting on a proper nutrition plan with someone who's trained is one of the best ways that you're going to have success. Because that ultimately is going to feed all of your successes in the gym and make you feel much, much better on a day-to-day basis.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's really good advice. And for the other side, for the people who are listening right now and they're really excited about what you're talking about and want to get involved with specifically you or with just Exos in general, what's the best way for people to reach out to you guys? Is it just the website or?
Yeah, if you go to teamexos.com, that's our nationwide website where it's going to have every single Exos location in the country. We're listed on that one in Fairfax, Virginia. We have the Innova website where you can find us at innova.com/Exos. Obviously there's social media. If you find us at, Innova Sports Performance powered by Exos, we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook, and we have all of those places to be found. And there's all sorts of mailers and everything that goes out around the community for people that want to be involved.
Yeah, you can also, I've seen plenty of kind of free advice that you give out on the Innova Sports Medicine Facebook page too. That's another good resource for people looking for, I saw you doing some, I think, piriformis stretches and also looking at the foot the other day of kind of mobilizing the foot will actually help you be able to touch your toes or, get a little bit more bend. So another good resource for everybody out there.
Great. I thought it was really interesting what you said about your career arc earlier, Jeff, that sort of you were in athletic training and that, you sort of wasn't acceptable and up to your standard. And it seems like hearing you talk so passionate about this right now is getting me really excited in some of the things that I'm working on. Because I went through a similar career arc. I was an athlete as well who went through PT early on, and I really didn't like what I saw. And then to find people who could really make a difference for people and make changes, it's just that passion that drives you to be great. It's really good to hear other people in the health field that want to make a difference.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. Honestly, my wife, who is also an athletic trainer, is one that's pushed me along the lines when it comes to this, because she was one that really helped me when I would talk about stuff. She could hear the passion in my voice when I would talk about a late stage rehab, of an athlete. I'd get energetic. I'd get a little sweaty. I'd start getting up and pacing and moving around. And she would kind of laugh. And then I would talk about other aspects of my day-to-day work. And it was just kind of not humdrum, but like not the same amount of energy. And then when the Exos opportunity came up, there was a big question of, do I go for it? Do I wait? It was going to be a huge life change to go from a collegiate system where I'd been comfortable for more than 10 years. If you go back all the way to when I was in college myself, I hadn't left a collegiate system in well over 10 years. And then I was going to go out in the private sector, and that was a scary thought to make such a big change. But she was really encouraging, obviously, as a spouse will be, because she heard the passion in my voice. And fortunately for me, I think that's a selling point, because when I talk to a parent of a kid who's coming here and has had like the worst thing happen to them, they've torn up a body part and it's caused them to lose one or more seasons of their sport. The passion that I have just talking about it on podcasts with you guys is the same passion that I'm going to have on the floor coaching. And so it's just going to be amplified because I'm going to have 8 or 10 kids in a group.
Yeah, I think people really feed off that too. That passion. It's all about, it makes them want to do it more too. It really feeds the buy-in.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming on, Jeff. And
we'll post. We'll post on our Facebook tonight if people have questions based off personal training questions or anything that could come out of the Exos method. We'll pass them along to you, and maybe we'll have you back on.
Absolutely, they can always if you post up my email on that site as well. They can always reach out to me at jcoulter@teamexos.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me, because I'll get back to you that day, answering your questions. If you're somebody local who wants to come in and check out our facility and see if that's something for you, or if you're not local, I might be able to help you find something nearby. There's plenty of people that are passionate like me, especially when it comes up to like New Year and New You and all those different plans that you want to get on. There's a whole bunch of different ways of going in. And honestly, for an adult coming in, the biggest thing that I see every day when they come in for the first time is they're intimidated to walk into that facility, because I'm not a small person. The guys that I work with are not small people. We're big, we're loud, we like to lift a lot of weights, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to push you under a barbell your first day, and that's what everybody's afraid of. They say, I got to get in shape before I can go to the gym, and that's not the case. We're taking everybody from every level of fitness right off the bat and making sure that they're getting the best out of every workout. They're 100% every single time, and the 100% for that person is going to look drastically different than the 100% for the person sitting right next to them.
That's fantastic. I think that's what people want to hear, and we'll pass along the information. Really great having you on. Thank you for the information, and we'll have to have you on again and keep chatting about how to keep people happy and healthy.
Absolutely. Glad to do it anytime.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep, Jeff. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. Really good stuff.
Great information from Jeff Coulter, and like we said, we've got that information in there, and we'll post that to the Facebook website as well, so that you can reach out if you want to contact Jeff if you have any questions.
Yeah. Great. So Will and Marks, HSO@gmail.com. Again, remember, you can ask us anything physical therapy related. Could be or sports. But
who do we have on next week? We can.
Jessica Babbage is going
to be talking about postpartum physical therapy. Yep. So if you've got questions ahead of time, we can take them through the email, and we'll bring them on during the show. Any postpartum physical therapy questions? All right.
Over and out.
Over and out.